Hello everyone, Miss Carrie here. One of my favorite things to do is show you how to take dies you already own in your collection and use them in brand new ways on different projects and for different seasons. I'm going to show you how to transform a cheerful spring card into a fun and spooky Halloween design. Here is my original card from last spring. Bright colors, florals, and playful patterns from Scrapbookcom. The happy colors are perfect for spring or summer, but what if we took this and gave it a spooky little makeover? We're going to design a candy-themed Halloween card using this same truck, a few extra dies, and pattern papers for fall. Here are some of the supplies I'll be using today. The food truck die set comes with the large truck pieces and a couple of sentiments. The build and layer ghost die set includes Halloween sentiments and this adorable little ghost. The last item is the Happy Halloween banner die set. But of course you could use some of the sentiments from the other two dies. I love the look of this little banner. I'm just going to use the word happy, but you could use both of these if you like. I'm also going to be bringing in some cardstock and pattern papers. I've grabbed some white mixed media cardstock. I will be doing some simple mixed media techniques, and this is going to be great for that part of the project. Today I'm using the Vacation and Daybreak cardstock collections. These have some rich fall colors and they go well with the Halloween prints in the Willow Lane paper pad. Of course, if you don't have the same exact products, I encourage you to shop your stash first. But if you would like to check out a list of the supplies I've used, I have linked everything for you down in the description below. I'm going to be making a 6x6 card, so I've cut my cardstock and pattern paper to size. I have a 6x6 card base. The two pattern papers that sit over the top were both cut from the Willow Lane collection. I have a 6x6 piece of pattern paper and a piece of pattern paper that's been cut at 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. We're going to be creating a moon using a little bit of mixed media. I have die cut a 3.5-inch circle from mixed media paper. This is perfect for ink blending and the water techniques we're going to be using today. All of the die cuts have been sorted into trays. I cut out the truck pieces, the ghost pieces, and the sentiment bits. Having everything separated into these stack and sort trays is going to make assembly quick and easy. We're going to start by adding some spooky texture to our moon. We are going to be using a little bit of water, and I want to make sure that this has time to dry. I have placed this down onto a grip mat, and I'm going to start blending some pumice stone Distress Oxide ink around the edges. This is going to give it a nice nighttime glow. I'm going to deepen the shadows with Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink. I like to tap off my brush on the mat so that I don't get any harsh blobs of color. If you're enjoying this step-by-step tutorial so far, go ahead and click that thumbs up button or subscribe so that you don't miss out on my live next week. I'll be sharing more about that at the end of the video. I'm pretty happy with the shading here, so I'm going to give the moon a light spritz of water. Distress oxides react with water and are going to create a crater-like look to the moon. I'm going to blot this gently with a cloth and set this aside to dry while we build the truck. Earlier, I shared how I took the food truck and turned it into a flower truck for spring. Today, we're going to create a spooky truck. I'm going to start by adhering the windows in place. If you want to give this a more of a distressed or worn look, you could add some ink around the edges of these. There is a very tiny little door handle. I have to admit, when I first looked at the die, I thought it said, "I love you," and then I realized that it was pieces for the truck. Don't worry about these small pieces. A wax pickup tool is a lifesaver when it comes to putting these in place. The colors I selected for this truck have more of a whimsical Halloween feel. I have the deep purple cardstock for the base, and I added accents with teal, yellow, and black. Don't be afraid to play with color. Teal and orange look great together for Halloween. So at the base of the truck, there's this little almost grill looking piece. When you lay this over the main color, you're going to be able to see that purple show through. With the spring truck, I layered 2 greens together so that I could get a little bit of contrast. We're going to do something similar with this truck as well. So I'm going to bring in a black die cut, and then I'm going to layer it with a softer gray, and I'm going to shift this over slightly. This is going to give me a dual tone and a soft shadow. With a pencil, I traced the die onto some soft yellow cardstock, and I'm going to layer these 2 over the top of that. This is going to give me a wonderful contrast of black and yellow mixed with the purple. The die leaves an impression of a little running strip. On my original design, I decided to bring in a piece of cardstock. I used the die that was designed to go at the top of the truck to cut this piece here. Now this isn't quite long enough to go the full length of the truck, so we're just going to cut it in half and adhere it onto either side. When the door is glued in place, it'll hide that gap. If you want to level up this design, you could add some stitching or some highlights with a white gel pen. When you take a look at my photo at the end of this video, you'll be able to see that I added some stitch marks using the Scrapbookcom stitch border dies. I actually have a video that shows you how to create 2 fall cards with stitched backgrounds using those dies. I'll add a link to that video down in the description below. Let's go ahead and create the awning. I used pattern paper with candy designs to die cut the shapes. Instead of just randomly cutting these out, I pressed the die onto the paper, and this allowed me to see the indentation of where the cut was going to sit. If it was wrong, then I just needed to shift it a bit. When I ran this through my die cutting machine, it flattened out any impressions that I created. Of course, mint tape is going to be your best friend for this. It will hold that die in place when you run it through your die cutting machine. So when we place these pieces onto the large awning die cut, you want to make sure that you leave a little bit of space at the top. That's going to be the color that shows at the top of the awning. Now, if you want to level it up a bit, you can bring in another die cut. Once again, I just used that thin die that sits at the top of the food truck, trimmed it down, and then I layered it at the top of the awning. This gives the project a little bit more dimension and finishes off the piece. All right, let's go ahead and quickly assemble our ghost and put our card together. To simplify the assembly process, I double layered the ghost die cuts. The legs are going to be sandwiched in between, and this is going to create some dimension and stability. I'm going to go ahead and add the little hat with this teal decorative strip. There are also some fun pumpkins and stars in this set that you could use for some extra details. All right, let's go ahead and take all these pieces and assemble the card. I'm going to layer the larger square pattern papers over my 6x6 card base. I'm going to adhere the moon in the upper right corner and ground the truck with a strip of cardstock along the bottom. I used those stitched dies to create this fun little stitching here. You can see it creates a really nice impression that looks like you added stitching. Now I'm just going to pop that sentiment in place. I'm going to adhere the word Halloween right over the top of the moon. And then I'll place my banner over on the left and all of the letters. The last step is to add our shelf of pumpkins. I use that small thin die once again, and I cut out a small strip from a wood pattern in the Willow Lane collection. Placing double-sided tape on the back of the cardstock has turned these pumpkins into little stickers. When we layer our orange pumpkins over the top, it's going to look like we created inlays. Now, to simplify this even more, I am going to remove the handle. I found that it was difficult to line up the pieces with such a thin, detailed design. When you remove the handle, make sure that you keep that shadow piece in place. I'm going to place 3 of these on that wooden shelf. I already have one in the center of my little ghost to make it look like he's holding a candy bucket as well. Now I'm going to carefully glue the orange die cuts over the top, and it looks just like we created some inlays on our pumpkin pieces. How easy was that? And there you have it. Your spring food truck transformed into a spooky Halloween pumpkin truck. Take a look at both cards side by side. By switching up the color palette, paper patterns, and a few details, you can give your favorite dies a whole new seasonal life. I hope you enjoyed today's project and learned how to stretch your craft supplies from spring to spooky. If you would like more ideas for stretching your craft supplies, I'll be sharing another Spring to Spooky project in my upcoming live, and I can't wait to share another project with you. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this project, please like, subscribe, and share it with your crafty friends. If you have any questions about the project or supplies I used, feel free to leave a comment below. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.